day everyone, welcome to this course, The Life and Works of Jose Rizal. Before we proceed to our main agenda, let me introduce myself first. I am Hannah Rose D. Isconia, together with my co-members Phoebe Maluya, Aljal Osabel, Roquesa Orsal, and Welkisan Breeze. In today's meeting, we will be discussing the trial and execution of Dr. Jose Rizal. We all know that Dr. Jose Rizal is one of the greatest heroes in the Philippine history. His trial and execution became a turning point that awakened the Filipino spirit. Rizal fought not with weapons, but through his writings like Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, which exposed the injustices of the Spanish rule. Tungod sa iyahang mga gipangsuwat, daghang Filipinos ang nakamatngon sa tinuod nga kahimtang sa atuang nasud during that time. His peaceful way of fighting made him different from other revolutionaries, showing that freedom can also come from knowledge and courage. Now move on, let's proceed as a martyr. Rizal is one of the fought Filipino rights and freed. He suffered persecution for his beliefs and love for the country. He refused to renounce his principles despite pressure. He also showed strong commitment to free Filipinos from Spanish rule. So nganong gitawhan si Rizal og usa ka martyr? Rizal is called a martyr because he sacrificed his life for the sake of truth and freedom. He was persecuted and punished from expressing what many were afraid to say. Bisag giingnan nga i-renounce niya ang iyang gisulat og ideya, wala gyud siya niuyon. He knew the risk but still stood firm in his beliefs. Like how Jesus Christ died for faith, Rizal died for the nation. His death symbolizes bravery, honesty, and unconditional love for his country. Now, let's proceed kung unsa day ang impact sa pagkamatay ni Dr. Jose Rizal. His death became a turning point of Filipino history. He inspired reforms and changes in Filipino society. Accused of rebellion and subversion of Spanish rule or Spanish authorities, and his execution awakened Filipino nationalism. Rizal's death inspired unity and courage among Filipinos. When he was executed on December 30, 1896, thousands of Filipinos were moved to action. Ang iyang kamatayon ang nagpasiga sa kalayo sa revolusyon batok sa mga Kastila or against sa mga Kastila. His writing and sacrifices motivated groups like the Katipunan, led by Andres Bonifacio, to fight harder for independence. Even today, Rizal's death reminds us that one person's courage can change the course of nation's history. Mauna nga hangtod karon, ginasaulog or gina-celebrate gihapon nato ang Rizal Day matag December 30. Now, let's move on to the unfair trial of Dr. Jose Rizal. Rizal's trial was unjust and controlled by the Spanish. Preliminary investigation lasted only for 5 days. He was informed of the charges shortly before trial. The process denied him a fair chance to defend himself. So nganong unfair man kuno ang trial ni Jose Rizal? Rizal's trial was not fair because Spanish authorities already decided his fate before it began. The investigation only lasted for 5 days and most of the judges were Spanish officers. Wala siya'y tinuod nga chance nga makadepinsa sa iyahang kaugalingon. He was accused of subversion and being part of the Katipunan even though he did not lead the group. As an example, letters and writings were twisted to make it seem like he supported rebellion. Despite this, Rizal stayed calm and faced his execution with dignity and peace. Now let's proceed to the evidence against Rizal. So there are two evidence against Rizal. Ang una kay documents, ang ikaduha kay through testimonials. So included letters to and from family and reformist. The poem Condiman and Masonic document kay gigamit pud siya as proof or evidence against him. A letter signed Dimasalang stated that he helped persecuted Filipinos. So the Spanish government used letters, poems, and other writings as evidence against Rizal. Among them were the poem Condiman, his letters to family and reformist, and a letter signed Dimasalang, which is also pod sa usa sa iyahang mga pin names. These documents were said to show his sympathy for revolutionaries. Pero sa pagkatinuod, Rizal's writing only called for peaceful reforms and education, not war. They also used an anonymous letter from Hong Kong criticizing the government as proof. Though it wasn't clearly written by Rizal, this shows how desperate the Spaniards were to silence him. Okay, so now let's proceed to Rizal's pen names. So ang naa diri maora ni ang few of his many pen names. So Rizal used different pen names to hide his identity and safely express his opinions. So ang naa diri kay ang the first one kay Dimasalang and Laong-laan. So mao ni ang iyahang mga pen names nga gigamit niya sa iyahang writings and letters. Under Laong-laan, he wrote Himno ay Talisay. So mao ni siya ang poem encouraging students to study hard and love their country. Meanwhile, ang kaning Pinky Ann, which is kang Emilio Jacinto, and ang kang Tiktik kay si Jose Toriano Santiago, also used pseudonyms to write for the Katipunan. Sa panahon nga delikado ang pagsulti batok sa gobyerno or pag against sa mga Spaniards, ang paggamit og pin name ang usa sa pinaka-safe og usa sa ilahang paagi para makasurvive ato that time. Usa pod sa ilahang paagi para safe sila to fight sa ilahang right during that time. So, overall, Rizal's trial and death teach us about bravery, integrity, and love for the country. Bisan pa sa mga sayop nga pasangil, wala siya miurong, wala siya mihunong. His calmness before death showed through heroism. He even wrote Mi Ultimo Adios, a farewell poem full of love and hope for the Philippines. Rizal's story tells us that change starts from education, awareness, and courage to do what is right. As modern Filipinos, we must continue his fight, not with violence, but through knowledge, honesty, and unity.
After reviewing the so-called evidence, Rizal was quickly brought to trial and imprisoned. Kipa preso siya. His properties were seized and he was fined 1 million pesos. Instead of a civilian lawyer, he was represented by an army officer, Luis Taviel de Andrade. Rizal didn't deny court's jurisdiction, but insisted he had nothing to admit regarding of the charges or testimonies against him. He only wanted to clarify one thing, that during his exile, he had not been involved in any political activities. Despite in his calm and reasoned defense, the court still sentenced him to death by firing squad. Rizal spent his last 24 hours in his prison cell, where he wrote a letter to his dear friend Ferdinand Blumentritt, whom he called his second brother. On the morning of December 30, 1896, he was taken from Fort Santiago to Bagong Bayan, what we now call Luneta Park, for his execution. Now, here's where the story becomes more mysterious. 39 years after Rizal's death, a document surfaced. It claimed that Rizal had retracted his criticism of the Catholic Church and the Spanish government before he died. But to this day, historians still debate. Was the letter real or was it forged? Rizal's story is not just about death. It's about conviction, about standing for truth, even the world turns against you. So my question is, if you were Rizal, would you also stand for the truth, even if it meant facing death? Rizal defied orders and wanted to face the firing squad instead to show his innocence. But the authorities forced him to turn his back. Rizal was shot in the back, and as he fell, he turned sideways facing up. And his last words were "Consummatum est," which means it is finished. The same words said by Jesus Christ before he died.
Good day everyone, I am Aljil Isabel and I will be reporting on Jose Rizal, the Transcendental Hero. When we talk about heroes, we usually think of people who fight with swords, lead revolutions, or win wars. But Rizal was a different kind of hero. He fought not with weapons, but with wisdom, education, and the power of ideas. The term Transcendental Hero means someone who goes beyond the limits of time, place, and even death. In Rizal's case, his heroism was not just about what he did during his lifetime, but how his ideas continue to inspire generations even today. Now let's proceed to Rizal's greatness and influence. Rizal's greatness did not fade even after his death. More scholars from both the Philippines and the world studied about him and his contributions to Filipino national consciousness. The power of Rizal's character and influence that transcend geographical and generational boundaries is unquestionable. He led the propaganda movement, the unwavering campaign for political and social reforms. He was so talented and skilled that he always had the advantage over his contemporaries in terms of education and the fight against the excesses of the friar-led Spanish colonial rule. So these lines show that Rizal's greatness went beyond his lifetime. His intelligence, leadership, and courage inspired not only Filipinos but scholars around the world. His influence reached across generations and places, proving that his moral strength and intellect made him one of the most respected figures in Philippine history. By leading the propaganda movement, he guided the people toward awareness and reform through peaceful means. Next, struggles and achievements. Despite his middle-class status, he also struggled and suffered because of the prevailing social conditions during those times. He was so talented and skilled that he always had the advantage over his contemporaries. His leadership skills were also exceptional as he led the propaganda movement. He showcased his writing skills when he wrote for La Solidaridad to translate the plea of the propagandist. His fervid goal while growing up and being educated was the liberation of his fellow Filipinos from the bondage of political tyranny. So these sentences reflect how Rizal faced discrimination and injustice under Spanish rule but used his talents and education to fight for reform. Through La Solidaridad and his leadership, he expressed the struggles of the Filipino people. His dedication to freeing the nation from oppression shows both his intelligence and his courage to sacrifice for justice and equality. Next are Rizal as the first Filipino. The first Filipino, Jose Rizal, was the central figure of the revolutionary movement. Rizal pictured the Philippines as a nation even though those who live in it had no common name yet to refer to themselves. Rizal then was the first to imagine this social whole, which explains why he is remembered today as the first Filipino. He was also the first one to use the term Filipino. He studied Philippine history to prove that the Filipino natives had a culture of their own prior to colonization. He still embraced the term Indio despite all the negative connotations and turned it to a term of dignity and nobility. This part shows that Rizal was the first to see the Philippines as one united nation. He gave pride and meaning to the word Filipino, proving that our ancestors had their own culture long before colonization. By studying history and embracing the term Indio, Rizal taught Filipinos to love their identity and to be proud of their race despite the Spaniards' discrimination. Next is Rizal's vision and writings. His aspiration took the form of fighting against injustice in society. His fervid goal while growing up and being educated was the liberation of his fellow Filipinos from the bondage of political tyranny. It is also noteworthy to mention that Rizal's foremost dream was for the Philippines to be known as a nation of writers and intellectuals. He aimed at making the Filipino race known in the world. Rizal hoped that his achievements would influence all Filipinos to build a legacy. These lines reveal that Rizal's vision was for freedom through education and reform. He believed that intellectual progress could lead to national independence. His writings and achievements aimed to prove that Filipinos could be respected worldwide for their intelligence, artistry, and moral strength. Through his works, he laid the foundation for national pride and identity. Next is Rizal's pursuit of knowledge. Rizal's constant effort to improve himself showed how much he valued his own education. He even took sculpting and painting aside from the prescribed academic subjects. He learned other languages, including German, which enabled him to translate Friedrich Schiller's Wilhelm Tell into Tagalog. He constantly kept himself updated on the current trends in science and philosophy by reading and attending scholarly dialogue. Education was foremost for Rizal. He believed that education is vital in national development as it frees people from ignorance. So these details show how dedicated Rizal was to lifelong learning. He studied many fields, medicine, art, literature, and languages because he believed knowledge was the key to national freedom. His deep love for education and self-improvement became a model for Filipinos, proving that learning can lead to personal and national progress. Next is Rizal's dream of unity. Rizal was the first who sought to unite the whole archipelago and envisioned a compact and homogeneous society of all the old tribal communities from Batanes to the Sulu Sea, based on common interest and mutual protection. Rizal is the first in the hearts of the Filipinos. Filipinos love peace, for we have chosen to magnify a man of peace above the men of war. Filipinos love freedom and justice. Both his struggles and triumphs inspired and ignited the Katipunan-led revolution. Rizal is a Filipino hero because he embodied the qualities of a true hero and made Filipinos realize the best of what they can be. These parts describe Rizal's dream of a united and peaceful Philippines. He imagined one nation bound by shared goals and mutual respect. His peaceful resistance and moral leadership inspired the Katipunan to continue the struggle for independence. Even today, his ideals of unity, peace, and love for freedom remain the guide for all Filipinos.
So, good day everyone. So today I will be discussing the two important topics about our national hero, which is si Dr. Jose Rizal. So first topic is his ideals and philosophies and his rule as a transcendental hero. So let's begin with the first one, his ideals and philosophies. Rizal's achievements gave him a status that no other Filipino had, both during his lifetime and even now. His greatness was not just in what he did, but in what he believed in. His ideals and philosophies that he hoped would guide not only his generation, but also the generations that followed. These ideals reflect his deep concern for society, education, religion, and humanity as a whole. So now I will be discussing some of his ideals and philosophies. First ideals and philosophies is social philosophy. Rizal's social philosophy revolved around man's place in society. He wanted people to understand the forces that shape human life, things like race, poverty, wealth, and social conflict. So for him, justice and equality were essential to a healthy and progressive nation. And he believed that the youth are the hope of the country, the key to achieving true greatness and progress. So another very strong belief of Rizal was about colonization. He said that colonies should not be abused or exploited. Instead, they should be trained for self-governance, meaning people should be taught how to lead themselves, not to depend forever on their colonizers. So this shows Rizal's deep understanding of freedom, not just political independence, but moral intellectual independence as well. Next is Rizal's views on religion and humanity. Rizal was also very bold when it came to religion. During his time, the Spanish friars had strong control over people's beliefs, but Rizal challenged that. He said that salvation is not limited to Catholics. It is for everyone who lives righteously. He also believed that fasting is not true measure of sacrifice, especially if it's done without sincerity. Moreover, he did not agree with the sale of religious items like medals, crosses, and rosaries. For him, faith should never be commercialized. So aside from religion, Rizal also encouraged people to study human behavior. He wanted us to understand why people choose to do good or evil. This shows how philosophical he was. He didn't just observe society, he analyzed human nature itself. Next is the power of knowledge and education. For Rizal, knowledge and education were the keys to national progress. He said that what we learn should not just come from books, but from human experience. From observing life, interacting with others, and understanding society. Education, he believed, was the most powerful weapon against ignorance. It frees people from mental slavery and gives them the ability to think critically. He also believed that uneducated people could not be easily controlled or dominated by other nations. So for Rizal, education was not just about personal success. It was a means of building a strong, independent, and enlightened nation. So now let's move on to the topic, the Transcendental Hero. So unsa di ay ang hero? What is the meaning of hero? So a hero is someone who shows great courage, does something extraordinary, and is remembered for their service to humanity. So Rizal is the perfect example of this definition. So he was a towering figure in the propaganda movement, using his intellect and writings to fight for reform instead of violence. His achievements in literature, medicine, and education showed his deep love for the country. Even in the face of death, Rizal was fearless. And what's more amazing is that even after his execution, his influence only grew stronger. His legacy continued to inspire not only Filipinos, but people around the world fight for freedom and justice. Next is Rizal's legacy as the Filipino hero. Interestingly, even though Rizal is widely recognized as our national hero, there is actually no official law that proclaims him as much. According to the National Historical Commission or NHC, no Filipino historical figure has been officially declared a national hero. However, Rizal's heroism was recognized by the people themselves. In 1898, General Emilio Aguinaldo declared December 30 as a national day of mourning in honor of Rizal and other heroes. Later on, William Howard Taft, the American Governor-General, also promoted Rizal as the symbol of Filipino heroism. Even without legal recognition, Rizal became a symbol of what it means to be a true Filipino. It's quite interesting that while he was searching for a true Filipino identity, he ended up defining it himself. He showed that through education, moral strength, and courage, we can rise above social challenges. His struggles and achievements inspired the Katipunan Revolution, which eventually led to the first independent republic in Asia. Up to this day, Rizal's spirit continues to remind us to be brave, intelligent, and patriotic citizens. That's all for my part. Thank you for listening.
So, good day everyone. Today I will be sharing about the martyrdom of Dr. Jose Rizal, our national hero. So, his life and death became one of the most powerful symbols of freedom for the Filipino people. So, first is Rizal's sacrifices. So, Dr. Jose Rizal made many sacrifices in his lifetime. So, with the help of his brother Pasiano, he studied abroad to continue his education. So, this was his first big sacrifice, leaving his family behind to pursue his dreams. So, it was not easy for Rizal because he faced loneliness and homesickness, but he remained strong and focused on his goal, which is to learn and to use that knowledge for the betterment of our country. So, second is the education and transformation of Dr. Jose Rizal. So, while in Spain, Rizal first studied fine arts but later decided to take medicine, specializing in ophthalmology. So, he wanted to cure his mother's blindness and to help others. So, through his studies, he learned how to search for truth and solve problems. So he believed that every problem has a solution, and that mindset inspired him to look for ways to heal not just the body but also the nation. So third is his final day on December 30, 1896. So on December 30, 1896, Rizal faced his death with courage. So he walked calmly from Fort Santiago to Bagong Bayan, now known as Loneta. So it is where his monument is located. So the doctor who checked him before execution was amazed by how calm and peaceful he was. So even in his final moments, Rizal stayed strong and accepted his fate. So he knew that his death would awaken the hearts of Filipinos and give new strength to the fight for freedom. So the fourth one is his legacy and impact. So after his death, the Katipuneros and other Filipinos continued their struggle for independence, but Rizal's sacrifice inspired them to be brave and to fight for our country's liberty. So because of his courage, intelligence, and love for the Philippines, Dr. Jose Rizal became a symbol of hope and unity for all the Filipinos. So Rizal may have died more than a century ago, but his spirit continues to live in every Filipino who loves and serves the country. So thank you, and let us all remember the true meaning of his sacrifice.